A wake for an 8-year-old boy. Felipe Gomez Alonzo died in U.S. custody last Christmas Eve after falling ill. Record numbers of young families from Central America are crossing the U.S. border. Most are Guatemalan. We wanted to find out what's driving children as young as Felipe to abandon their home country for the United States.
Llevo gente a Estados Unidos, como se dice, de coyote.
And follow the secret and dangerous routes migrants take. Ten hours drive from the capital city near the Mexican border, our journey starts in Yalambojoch, Felipe's hometown, in one of the poorest parts of Guatemala.
Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Tú eres Catarina?
I meet his sister, Catarina, the day before his body returns to the village.
Me siento triste por mi hermano. Yo lo quería mucho y la verdad me duele mucho. De que su muerte haya sido así, sin despedirse.
The coffin arrives early next morning. Felipe's father borrowed $5,000 to get to the U.S. 3 years' wages here. Catarina told me it was Felipe's dream to study in the U.S. and come back to his family. As the village grieves, the ceremony carries on late into the night. In the morning, the body is taken to the cemetery. It's the first time a migrant child has returned dead to the village.
Chukton ahinanik evalur himpishan matoyel matomai. Olin mel sahbian shibing yik mas te batl hume ba el tiktakibang yik wach ngeste covida yet mas unin ishkantik uchiste shasbat.
Felipe's father has stayed in the U.S. to pay back his debt. I wonder how concerned people in the village were about Felipe leaving. Pedro Gomez teaches at the only primary school in the village.
Todos los documentos de él durante el año que él ha estado aquí en la escuela. Ahí tiene diplomas de preprimario.
Pedro is worried about his students.
Este fin de año que pasó en mes de diciembre, ahí se fueron la mayoría. Fueron los primeros niños cabal para adentro. Lograron llegar. Va el tercer viaje de otra familia de acá, estoy hablando de aquí en la aldea. Va el segundo viaje de otra familia, cabal pasaron. Para mí es una advertencia que yo digo, para mí, yo siento por esos niños, pero incluso ahorita no aprendemos, ahí siguen llevando los hijos, ahorita ya están sumando 12 niños en la escuela, ya para el viaje.
This is the only secondary school in the village, but now it remains empty. Last year, it had to close due to lack of funding. Children here stop studying when they turn 13. Of the 1,400 who live here, more than 80 people left for the U.S. in 2018 alone. I was surprised to find out these numbers are typical of indigenous towns in the region. People leave unannounced, and families can lose track of their loved ones. Maria's 22-year-old granddaughter has been missing since October.
Pensaba que, ¿qué pasó? ¿Hay alguien se mató? ¿Hay alguien que se llevó?
The last Maria heard from her granddaughter was that she had crossed the U.S. border.
Siempre estoy triste por mí.
I wanted to understand the struggles that young people face here. I meet 22-year-old Mateo. Every day he crosses a lake from the village to work on a small coffee plantation.
No ganamos nada, nada más sacamos para comer.
Mateo left for the U.S. with his 13-year-old brother. They crossed the border in January, but he was detained and got deported. His brother remains in U.S. custody.
Tener algo mejor para poder hacer una casa, comprar otro poco de terreno.
Mateo borrowed $3,000 to be guided north by people smugglers. But now he's home. He earns around $6 a day and can't pay back his debt.
Me siento un poco desesperado y como si estuviera encerrado en alguna parte.
Democrats are inviting caravan after caravan, isn't that nice, of illegal aliens to flood into our country and overwhelm your communities.
Central Americans like Mateo are at the center of Trump's flagship anti-immigration policy.
¿Tú crees que tienen derecho los guatemaltecos o los que emigran allá a trabajar de manera ilegal? ¿Que eso es un derecho que ustedes tienen en un país extranjero?
Tienen razón de brincar su país, ¿verdad? Pues, pero como nosotros pues vamos por la pobreza, no vamos a robarles allí.
It seemed to me that it was the future of this country that wanted to leave. Despite Trump's stance on migration, people here seem to aspire to an American dream. This house was built with money sent back by relatives who left to find work in the U.S. A visible reminder of the difference that dollars can make. Last year, Guatemalans living in the United States sent a record $9 billion back to their families. That's 10% of Guatemala's GDP. I wanted to understand the risks and danger that Felipe and his father went through as they started their 2,000-mile journey north through Mexico. We decided to leave the village and find the migrant trail. To take this route, most migrants use coyotes, people smugglers who transport them to the U.S. We'd heard of one coyote who's willing to speak to us. So we traveled closer to the Mexican border to track him down.
Y baja a la otra montaña. En esa situación se encuentra la línea de México y Guatemala.
He agreed to talk about his criminal operation, but only if we disguised his identity.
De 100 personas, quizás 30 son coyotes.
¿Cómo hacen para pasar todas esas etapas de seguridad, burlar todo eso y seguir?
Pues rodeándolas, pagando, buscar personas que viven cerca de los retenes donde se ponen. Puede pasar uno como un trabajador de la colonia, de ahí, del lugar, sin sospechar nada.
Coyotes charge up to $7,000, double the average annual wage in Guatemala.
Es peligro, el gobierno no nos quiere.
Pero ¿cómo los va a querer si hacen algo ilegal?
Sí, es ilegal, pero la gente sí, nos dice, cuando sus familiares están allá, dice gracias, llegaron bien, sin ninguna novedad. Puede salir a buscarlos o a obligarlos que se vayan, eso nunca.
People smuggling has only been illegal since 2015. If found guilty, coyotes could face prison sentences of 6 to 8 years. But so far, there have only been 7 convictions. The next morning, we leave early. I want to meet a migrant on the move. We head to a town named Cannibal, near the Mexican border. Towns like Cannibal act as processing terminals, where migrant children and their parents are moved on to the next stage of their journey, and north to the U.S.
So these are pickup trucks that leave from Guatemala to Mexico, and I've been told that this is one of the spots where migrants jump in to cross illegally. Here they're telling me that they're just going to work in Mexico. No one's migrating to the U.S.
I started to get the feeling migrants had been warned not to reveal where they were going.
Solo a la frontera mexicana.
Solo la mexicana.
20 minutes drive through a valley is the border crossing into Mexico. We meet a man migrating with his 16-year-old daughter. He agrees to speak to us, but only because his coyote hadn't shown up. He wanted to be interviewed anonymously.
Yo trabajo es sembrar milpa, frijol, y ahora que ya se acabó la temporada ya no hay nada de trabajo. Mis hijos me piden que papi vamos para allá. Bueno.
Que critican la inmigración ilegal en Estados Unidos. ¿Usted quiere justamente ir a hacer eso?
Porque la verdad la necesidad nos pide a nosotros, porque que nuestro país es pobre y hay muchos problemas. No es porque somos mentirosos, es la verdad.
In 2018, the number of Guatemalan families apprehended at the U.S. border doubled to more than 50,000, many more than from Honduras, El Salvador, and Mexico. And almost half of the unaccompanied minors apprehended at the border last year were Guatemalan. That's 22,000 children. Many migrants believe it is easier to stay in the U.S. if they are under 18 or arrive with a child. We'd heard of a border town where migrants get transferred through whole networks of coyotes. Felipe and his father took this route into Mexico. Local police told us that Gracias a Dios is run by people smugglers. It's too dangerous to film outside the car.
Put it down now.
Migrants from across Central America are ushered onward. Women and children, well-dressed and traveling light. This is not a school trip. It's Guatemala's future, leaving their country. Migrants are at the mercy of smugglers, and police say they're not in control here.
We've just crossed the border from Guatemala to Mexico, and there are no mandatory checkpoints. We were just passing right through.
This crossing is also used to facilitate the trade of drugs and guns. Human rights activists say Guatemala has always neglected its poor indigenous population, a major factor forcing young people to leave.
El Estado no se constituye por proteger el territorio como tal, se constituye con intereses económicos. Jamás el Estado ha tenido una visión de decir, bueno, están los pueblos indígenas y desde esa visión generamos programas de desarrollo.
In Guatemala City, the foreign minister is in charge of migration.
Pero explíqueme exactamente qué está haciendo el gobierno de Guatemala para que la gente no se vaya a Estados Unidos.
Bueno, estamos empezando a crear campañas y lo que queremos hacer es por medio del programa integral de desarrollo es crear precisamente esas fuentes de trabajo. O sea, es muy fácil decir no ha hecho, es muy fácil decir ustedes tienen abandonadas a las comunidades, pero el tema migratorio es el tema prioritario de política exterior.
Back in the mountains, life for Felipe's family has changed forever.
Ojalá que Dios nos da fuerzas para seguir adelante.
Since Felipe's funeral at the end of January, at least 10 more families have left his town to start their journey to the U.S.